And we're rolling.
In 3, 2, 1. Welcome to PIX on Pigskin from the PIX 11 Sports Department, high above 42nd Street in the heart of New York City. I am your host, Todd Ehrlich, the executive producer of the PIX 11 Sports Department. With us today, an embarrassment of riches, best-selling author, the legendary NFL insider, your friend and ours, Gary Myers is here. No applause, but there should be.
There we go.
Standing ovation. I like it. Sound effects will be added later. Obviously, when we increase the budget, we do have a couple sponsors that are looking at us. Two-time Super Bowl champion.
Is that true?
Yeah. Ooh. Yeah. Two-time Super Bowl champion, all-time fan favorite. In New York as a Giant. In Baltimore as a star and champion. In Philadelphia as a star and champion. The legendary, hopefully soon to be Hall of Famer. We were discussing that earlier. We are definitely stating that right here, right now. That is our mission. Sean Landeta, thanks.
Thank you, guys.
Sean, you played with Bart Oates too, right?
Yes,
How many championships did you guys win from the USFL and the NFL?
4. We
4,
just
right?
missed another by a point. Almost had one.
One in Philly, one in Baltimore.
Bart got the second one too?
Yeah.
I thought he was in San Francisco at that point.
No, Bart got 5. He got
got
2 in the
1
NFL,
and
2 in USFL, 2 with us, and 1 with San Francisco.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he beat you by 1.
Right.
Now, to break down the Jets and possibly our glass table, a member of the Jets' all-time team, linebacker, the restaurateur, resident genius, I think underrated for his intelligence, the one, the only, Greg Buttle.
Underestimated by whom?
Me.
Classic.
Yeah. And I'm the one that hired you for the show. So Joe, he likes organization. He likes a rundown for the show. So he recommended that in week 1. And I forget nothing Joe says and follow all of it.
And the train still goes off the tracks.
All the time and already has. We're like 3 minutes in. We haven't even got to the rundown. Coming up on today's show, coming off of Thursday Night Football, the Jets are rested and ready for the wounded Buffalo Bills that stumble into MetLife Stadium fresh off a devastating upset loss to Jacksonville. How is that possible? While the Giants they'll just rest and try to stay ready for the champions from Tampa Bay on a huge Monday night matchup. And we'll get some people's thoughts, especially Gary Myers, the NFL insider, on the Aaron Rodgers situation. Since Gary is the busiest and most in demand of all of us, we're going to change the format a little bit this week and start with 2 big picture NFL questions for the panel, starting with Gary. So, speaking of Aaron Rodgers, what are your thoughts on his wordplay with his vaccination and how that ended up costing the Packers, I think, a game in Kansas City, which they would have won if he started?
Yeah, I think that I'm not going to be asking for the Rodgers rate anytime soon. I'll go for the Patrick price. I think this really hurt his credibility that he was trying to, and he's admitted he misled the public in training camp when he said he was immunized. And now I have to admit, if I was at that press conference and he said immunized, I would have had a follow-up question to that, like, are you vaccinated?
Right.
What does it mean you're immunized? But nobody.
You would have been the only one, though. Nobody did.
Nobody asked him that question. So we got away with it for months. And the fact that he was not wearing a mask in the press conferences did not, let's just say this, if he was wearing a mask in the press conferences, it would have raised a red flag.
Like Carson Wentz on the sideline.
Exactly, because only the unvaccinated players have to do it. The fact that he appeared before the media without a mask, it just backed up that he said he was immunized, which people took it to mean he was vaccinated. As far as what this means, I mean, I think the fallout from it has been tremendously hurtful to his credibility and his integrity. And on the field, that was a game that they should have won in Kansas City. The Chiefs looked just as bad against the Packers as they did against the Giants. They should have lost that game, and they would have lost that game if Aaron Rodgers had played. And in a conference now where the Bucs have 2 losses, the Rams have 2 losses, and now the Packers have 2 losses, and the Cowboys have 2 losses. If Kansas City had won that game, which they would have done with Aaron Rodgers, they would right now. I mean, if Green Bay had won the game, they would at this point in the season, 8 or 9 weeks into the season, wherever we're at, had been the number 1 seed by
100%.
itself, which is going to be crucial in January
Green
at
Bay,
Lambeau
you were
Field.
there.
Right.
It's cold.
It gets cold now. The Bucs,
It froze Andy's mouth.
There you
She
go.
couldn't complain, as I recall.
the Bucs did go into Lambeau and beat them this past season, but there were like 5,000 people in the stands. It's a lot different when there's 65,000 people or whatever that place holds, and if it's tremendously cold. So I think the way this is going to play out, I think it's going to be very hurtful to the Packers. One other point I just want to make, even if he plays on Sunday, and it appears that he will, as long as he continues to test negative, he'll be playing without practicing for 2 weeks.
And 10 days is the NFL mandate.
Right.
He needs to be quarantined.
So he has not practiced in the key practices leading up to the Kansas City game because he tested positive that Wednesday morning. He has not practiced all week. Even if he does a walkthrough on Saturday, it's not the same as a practice. So there's a good chance that he will not be the Aaron Rodgers that we have seen the first half of the season.
Greg
Mr.
Buttle
Buttle?
looks like he agrees wholeheartedly.
No, I kind of look at that and I want to know one thing. First of all, I'm an Aaron Rodgers fan simply because of the way he plays, what he does off the field, et cetera, it's his own thing. So I don't care. But what's the complicity of the Green Bay Packers?
Right.
How did their PR staff allow him to go do that if they didn't know what he was talking about? So the Packers are complicit in this. And so when you want to talk about it, why is everyone talking about Aaron Rodgers? Should be talking about the Green Bay Packers and their PR staff and the people there. They're the experts that know how to talk to everybody, and so they should be. So that's the question. And then with the NFL and the protocols in the NFL, the Packers certainly know what the NFL protocols are. The NFL should know what they're doing. The NFL should have listened to that and said, whoa, 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 whoa. What do you mean by that?
Well, but
So I'm telling you, there's more to this than just
Well,
Aaron Rodgers saying immunization.
Joe, I just want to say one thing. The NFL knew all along he was not vaccinated.
right.
That was no secret. Where the protocols weren't followed were in the press conferences. I think, I can't say it for sure, but I think he was wearing a mask in the building when he was supposed to, because there's surveillance cameras that the NFL does see, those surveillance cameras, and they would have seen that he wasn't wearing a mask and they knew he was not vaccinated. My question is, how could the NFL let Rodgers hold those press conferences without a mask on? Those things were on television for everybody to see. The league knew he wasn't vaccinated, yet they saw him in these press conferences.
Well,
without
he drowned them in paperwork. I don't know if you heard. He gave a 500-page report, they said, to the NFL.
But to Gary's point, if the NFL knew he was not vaccinated and they saw him in a press conference for week 1, why wasn't something said or done right there?
Right.
Why now, halfway through the season?
The Packers knew he wasn't. And
They
that's
had
my
to know.
point.
They had to
Packers
know.
and they know what the protocols are. Who would the Packers drop the ball?
Do you think this would have happened if they hadn't just been coming off the off season that they had with Aaron Rodgers?
We don't know, but this thing's kind of a cut and dry thing where if you're vaccinated, these are your rules. If you're not, these are your rules.
Whether you
And-
agree with them or not. those are the
Correct.
rules.
It doesn't matter. But
Well-
the fact that this was able to go so long, and again, another point Gary made when he made that used that word, I've been immunized. I am so surprised that one of those reporters in there didn't say, you're immunized, but does that mean you're vaccinated? Because not one person has used that term in 18 months of thousands of conversations having to do with players. Ton of conversations and articles on this guy's vaccinated. He's not. A player say, I'm not vaccinated. The word always used was vaccinated. We never heard the word immunized one
Right.
time. I would think that would have raised a red flag. Wait a minute. Why did he use that word instead of vaccinated?
And now
Very
we know.
interesting.
And now we know.
And like you said too, it just makes him look like you were trying to fool somebody or pull the wool over somebody's eyes. And now, as far as credibility, it really does
Well,
hurt.
he did have a
Takes a
mea
big
culpa. He
hit.
did have a mea culpa. and
Did he?
Like
I know.
huge. He tried to mislead the public.
Well, he may
period.
have culpa, said I was wrong. I may have misspoke this. And
Wow.
Wait a minute. No, I don't know. I thought he did a
doubled
discount
down
double
first,
down
right.
there.
Yeah, and then when there was all the backlash, he went on Pat's show again, and then finally sort of had a meeting.
You know, I don't recall who posted this on Twitter. Maybe you guys will know, but someone pointed out that CeeDee Lamb was fined $20,000 for his jersey being out of his pants,
Right.
and Aaron Rodgers was fined $14,000.
That's
for not
less,
following-
right?
That is
Yeah.
less. Yes.
Less,
Yeah.
yeah.
On a different.
You got a Maryland, didn't you?
I
We're
did.
not-
Your math
And
is
my math
excellent.
skills is excellent. So do you feel which?
This is a Mensa meeting.
There's something
by
for
the way,
everybody. There's
by the
something for
way, you're
everybody.
the only one in here with an IQ high enough. And why do I know that? I read that. Seriously, that was either in his biography and his press guide.
Greg Buttle.
Absolutely. No, his IQ is
Through the roof.
seriously through the roof.
Yeah.
Yes.
Potts?
He's
Maybe his too, but
Yeah.
his
Oh,
his I've read
Right.
about. I've
this
read
is the
about his.
definition of suffering
What-
fools for Greg Buttle right
But
now.
how about this? I read last night that the $14,200 to Aaron Rodgers equals $33.50 to what the average American makes.
Wow.
So him spending 14,000 is like the average person spending
Literally
$33.
is
That's what Todd
pocket
said.
change.
And it's like deductible.
Yeah, it's a
Absolutely.
charitable donation.
That's fantastic.
Oh, that's
They
smart.
take it, they make a donation to NFL charities, whatever it may be. So
That's what they did with Dan Snyder. They fined him the 10 million, but they made him send it to charity,
Write it
which
off.
he would have done anyway. So it's a write-up. It's it's ridiculous.
love it.
Okay, so speaking of out of line, was Rex Ryan out of line for criticizing Mike McCarthy for keeping Dak Prescott
Prescott.
in a blowout loss?
It's like
in
Mr.
Denver?
Burns.
You know-
Yes, Mr. Myers.
Well, I mean, I don't think Rex's point was that far off in that Dak was coming back from a serious enough calf injury that it kept him out of game, and even though they had a bye week.
When you're risking injury, and you saw how they played without him last year, they were terrible. This year,
But they just won a game the week before without him.
Right. No, but Rex's point was not that they played him in the game, is that they kept him in the
kept
game.
him in the fourth
When
quarter.
it was 30-0.
Yes,
I
they
don't
were
disagree
gonna
with
kill.
that. Except Rex Ryan is the last guy that can make that statement
why is that?
because he ruined Mark
Mark
Sanchez's career.
Sanchez.
In the Stupid Bowl game in 2013, he
Against
put
the
him in the
Giants.
fourth quarter of the game for the first time behind a second or third string Jets offensive line. He blew out his shoulder. That might not have happened if he was playing behind the number one offensive line. And Sanchez was never the same after that. Now, he wasn't great before that, but this was a guy who helped get the Jets to 2 straight championship games. And by 2013, his shoulder was hanging loose. And Greg, I mean,
Speaking of hanging
no,
loose,
I know Greg was at that game. So my question, I don't know if you were doing TV for that game or you're just doing the pre and the post, but were you surprised that Rex would put at that point was a starting quarterback. Geno Smith had not beaten him out yet. You put him in the fourth quarter of a preseason game behind backup offensive lineman, and then you had the nerve this week to
The
criticize
audacity.
another coach. I mean,
Well, I all I can tell you is he gets paid to make those comments. So that's number one. So whether he believes it or not is superfluous to the conversation. Number two is
so you're basically saying he get paid to be a blowhard,
But-
so he can say whatever.
But wait a minute. You heard him use a word right
Rex is
there.
agreeing with that.
You heard him use a word
Yes,
that's
Superfluous.
that 160 IQ.
Yes.
that's what I'm saying.
Superfluous, is that what it was?
Yes.
That's backs up what I said.
Ladies
That
and
means
gentlemen.
irrelevant to the conversation.
That's big. It's a big word.
know what
And
it
the
means.
point being is that Rex Ryan was a great defensive coordinator, without a question. Might be I'm not going to say as good as his father because I think he was better than his father.
Whoa.
Yes.
But not as good as his
Wow.
brother.
No, I don't know about his brother. The point being is that what he does in TV is always you have producers in your ear telling you what you should ask and what you should say, and maybe they do to him you should make a conversation about this, or they're all production meetings going on, so they'll throw it out there and they'll see what floats and everyone talks about it. Be that as it may, he took a lot of criticism for what happened to Mark Sanchez.
Mhm.
And the only reason that he was able to survive that was the fact that here you go. The guy goes into 2 championship games with the Jets. So, his decision making was, it ended up, whether it was wrong or right, he still ended up winning at the end of those 2 years or whatever it may have been. So that's my
No, that was, he had already won, you're saying?
Yes, he was already.
Right. But that doesn't make him, and for how long does he get the benefit of the doubt on making stupid decisions? Because
For years. And he was gone.
There's no statute of limitations on that.
Stupid decisions.
what I'm saying is that anybody else wants to criticize Mike McCarthy for that, okay, fine. But you can't have a guy criticize him.
Consider the source, we might
Well, what
say.
you're saying is it did the same thing, basically.
Exactly.
Right.
I'll tell you, we all know Rex, and he's a very friendly guy, well-liked. But I tell you, I see him on TV, and he does a good job. But, man, he can be harsh. I mean, he comes down on people, and I admire him for being honest. But, man, he comes down hard on people.
There because
during
his press conferences, he'll say anything.
But maybe
now he's getting paid to say anything.
And he's an intelligent guy, but
maybe he was speaking from experience, because he did say in there, if you want to get fired, that's going to happen, if Dak gets injured. So maybe he's speaking from experience there.
Before our host here moves on to something else, I just want to say that if he had prefaced it by saying, I did this to Mark Sanchez, it was the worst mistake of my coaching career, and it pains me to see another coach make the same mistake and play with a guy's career, I would accept that. But he didn't qualify it at all, and he's criticizing a guy for exactly what he did. They had far greater implications on Sanchez's career than it did, as it turns out, on Prescott.
Has there been backlash on him because of that, or not really? We're talking about
right here.
Just right here.
This
No,
podcast,
nowhere else.
PIX on Pigskin.
Well, I mean, about Rex's comments? Or,
Yeah.
I don't know, but we attacked the news on this show, Sean, and Rex, made news this week. And Rex,
And we attacked it
that's right.
Okay.
with vim and vigor. Speaking of attacking, Coach Sala made the decision this week, talking about another Jets quarterback to start, Mike White. Now, the fact that he's playing well has got to be good for the Jets and for the future of the Jets. If you have 2 good quarterbacks, it's better than none, as they have in Washington, as we've discussed. However, if he plays well enough, Mr. Buttle, could that set up a controversy between Zach and Mike White?
I don't think the news here is about the Jets having a quarterback controversy. I think it's more about the Jets discovering that they've got a nuclear warhead, and they are going to be able to hold the NFL ransom for them. Because you're not going to have both of those guys play forever. Here's a guy that they can use as value. I mean, I would play him because he's playing well, but Zach Wilson is the guy. That's what they drafted. They got him as a draft. Nobody in the world knew Mike White could play that well. I don't think the Jets knew he could play that well. They thought, okay, he's
Well,
good.
if they knew, he would have been starting to begin with.
Well, that's my point. And so you look at this, and what happens is that you can now hold other NFL teams ransom with a guy out there that if he plays well again, he's a restricted free agent.
What do you think they could get for him? Could they get him?
He played 1 game. Let's slow down.
He played 5 quarters. Come on.
Let me tell you
And his
something.
first series against Indianapolis, he should
His
have
jersey is in the Hall of Fame.
Come on, don't you know that,
If you're a
Gary?
Hall of Fame
That-
voter, you should know
It's
that.
unbelievable.
The first
Holy
series in
mackerel.
Indy, 2 passes could have been intercepted. He played great on the second series. So he's played 4 quarters in 1 series, and we got the guy in a freaking Hall of Fame for reasons other than his jersey. Come on. I mean,
All I'm telling
2
you is,
nuclear warheads. You got a rookie
pay
quarterback who couldn't complete a freaking pass.
so you don't
And
even
I-
listen well. I said a nuclear. I didn't say 2. I said a.
So Mike White's a
That's
nuclear
one.
warhead.
A is one.
He's
not
saying
zero.
what he could come if he continues. Is this correct, Greg? What you're saying is if he continues to play like this, he could be a guy that
He
could
didn't
get
say
tremendous.
if.
That's
He says they
But
have.
that's what he meant.
exactly
I think
right.
that's what he
Thank you.
meant.
Thank you.
4th of July celebration has nothing on this podcast. That's all I'm saying.
Hey, if Mike White continues to play like this, he's going to the Pro Bowl and they're getting rid of Zach Wilson. But that's not going to happen.
Listen, but wait a minute. Look.
He's not Kurt Warner.
Oh, let's
How do you
see.
know?
He could be
Let's
Tom
see.
Brady.
You
Did
don't.
he ever work at a grocery store?
I'm not sure about
That movie's can't
They
wait to see
never
that
knew
movie.
about Kurt Warner until he played. Now you have Mike Whitey's playing. So give
Kurt
the kid
Warner
a
was
chance
once
now.
in a lifetime.
They're going to beat him up because he had a great game?
No, I'm
Gonna
just
beat him
saying.
up because
They're
the
not
NFL
getting
for
5
his
number 1
jersey?
picks for Mike White.
No.
Right now.
Who said they're going to? This is the future. He's a
You just
restricted
said-
free agent. He's a restricted free
So
agent.
they're getting nothing for him unless they tender him at a higher number.
Thank you
Which they
very
will.
much. This guy's
Which
going to
they
hold a
will.
ransom. If he plays well, he can have a ransom.
Yes,
That's all I'm saying.
listen, if he continues to play well, let's
He's not
pump
in a
the
position
brakes.
to hold anybody
Let's
ransom.
pump the brakes.
Well,
Let's see what he does
after all
against
this,
Bills
the
this
answer
week.
is
All
yes.
gas, no brakes
Okay.
with the Jets.
That's right.
So
I think he's gonna
speaking of
play well.
upset,
He's the next Tom Brady, 6 Super Bowls.
everybody at this table seems upset, but
7.
not as upset as the Buffalo Bills coming off of that loss in Jacksonville. Mr. Buttle, is that good or bad for the Jets that they're catching Buffalo off of an upset?
I can only go through experience, okay? I don't think it means anything other than the fact that the Jets know they've got to play well. They have to play well. They didn't have to lose for the Jets to have to play well.
Or did they learn how to beat Buffalo? from
If you
watching
lose
the
a game,
film?
if you lose a game in the NFL, what do you think? You think, oh, I got to play harder next
You
week.
can't learn anything from the tape.
Of course, you can learn.
So
things
what
from
did the
tape.
Jets learn?
Doesn't
from the
make
tape?
you
That's
play
what
any
I'm
harder.
asking. You're a guy that studies tape. You're a guy that studies film. You're a guy that educated Joe and myself before the podcast last week and may bring that knowledge to Sports Nation. We don't know. It's possible. We're negotiating. So from the tape, what could the Jets learn from holding Buffalo to 6 points?
You learn who didn't play well in the Buffalo Bills. That's what you
it?
learn.
Just for one game.
One game. You
But
can learn it.
nothing was schemed, Sean?
It might have been, but that's more of an
But that's my
aberration.
question.
More of
He
an
studies film.
more of an aberration. How many 9-6 games are there in the NFL in these days?
There was one
Oh,
last week with
yeah,
Buffalo.
one.
Jackson.
The one we're talking about, right?
That's what I
One.
get. I brought
One.
that up.
But you know, just you know,
I got to tell you something. These journalist guys,
It's a
they all
week-to-week
yell
league.
at the players all the time. Oh my gosh.
Well, we thought you were tough and you could take it.
I can't tell you.
Todd, do you think the Jets will win next week?
Absolutely 100%.
Wow.
Oh, yeah, you're new to the podcast.
Yes.
For everybody
Yeah, you
listening at
wanna
home,
know.
Sean Landeta's
Yeah.
first week on
Sean,
the
it's your first
podcast
week.
here.
To try to
9 weeks, you
Yes.
picked the Jets to win.
Every single week.
and the
And the
Giants.
Giants.
Oh,
I shamelessly pander. I shamelessly pander when it comes to prediction to our listeners.
We have his
oh, well, you've got the Jets have won a couple.
Yes.
We've won a few, so
Yeah.
you've
So I
had some
couple
wins.
times,
You've
Hey,
gotten
like
some
a
wins.
broken clock.
broken clock twice a day. I'm good.
Here's the thing about the Bills.
Yes. Let's go Buffalo.
Last week at this time, everybody was, putting them, they're the Super Bowl favorite. They play one stinker and it's
Yeah, but they
everything is
against
wrong.
Jacksonville.
They
Right.
had a decent
Against
defense.
Urban Meyer. They had
Right.
9,000 opportunities to win that game.
But that's why you open the book to the word aberration. What does that mean? Something that's totally.
Mr.
I'm
Butler
gonna wait.
should feel that.
I'm gonna go out on the limb here.
Oh,
I'll be the
good.
guy. I think there's serious concern for Buffalo because they are a one-dimensional team. And I think we saw it earlier in the season. They do not run the ball enough. I think they're capable of running the
know.
ball.
I know.
Go
I
ahead.
know. What does that mean? They're capable of running the ball.
They are, but they don't run it enough.
Well,
And
they
I
throw
think
it to
that's
their
a
backs
flaw
as
in
their
their
running
game
game.
plan.
What's Buffalo's record?
I believe they're 5-3 now, or 6-3.
Yes.
They've lost to Tennessee, Pittsburgh, and Jacksonville. I forget if they're
In the
5 and 6
NFL,
wins.
it's tough to be 6-3. So whatever you're doing is for the most part working.
Right.
It's tough to
Oh,
be
they made
6-3.
the AFC Championship game last year.
And look, they probably would have beaten Tennessee if Josh Allen doesn't slip on that quarterback.
Yeah, I mean, right there. But are we taught? We're probably, unfortunately, let's say they win that game. Let's say they're 7-2. Today, people aren't talking about them any differently just because last
Even
week.
if they won 10-6.
Right. You know what? Didn't even think of that. Let's say they'd have won 9-6 against Jacksonville. Even though they won, they'd still be killing them. You only won 9-6 against
No
Jacksonville.
one cares. Right.
It's
You have to remind these people that we're speaking with here, Sean.
No, but come on. There are bigger concerns. Their offensive line are banged up. They've struggled to run the ball. If they're not, look, like any team, we talk about injuries all the time, right? I mean, if they're not healthy, then there's a chance. And they were without 2 of their offensive linemen against Jacksonville.
will they be
That's
back?
a big
Or
loss.
Are they
I don't
back
know.
for the Jets?
I don't know their status at this time for Sunday's game. So, but
Can you go
there's
to
a
the
chance.
phone call, please?
So you're saying there's a
There's a
chance.
chance.
That's all I'm saying.
How about the third team quarterback, Josh Johnson, right?
Yeah.
How about how he played last week?
Not
That was
only
awesome.
Not only that, but
Good.
Gary told me this might be a first in NFL history. How many times has a quarterback in the NFL in a game thrown 3 touchdowns and 300 yards, and the next Sunday he's the third stringer, or maybe he's not even dressing?
He's not going to
He's
dress.
not, because you can't get him off of the practice.
But
I think
has
Joe
that-
Flacco,
can you
is Joe
imagine?
Flacco going to be the
You
second?
threw for
Yeah, he'll be the
300 yards
backup.
and 3 touchdowns,
That
and
was
next
a
week you
trade.
can't even dress?
Best game of his life, and he's
At
in
15,
practice.
14
I
years,
love it.
right?
I
So
think that
is
is
that because of Joe Douglas? Because he traded a draft pick to get Flacco? I mean, I think the locker room,
We should
the
talk.
locker room knows who can play, and they can't be happy.
We
with
should
that
talk about that for a minute, because when that happened, that was kind of some news. You got
Yes.
Joe Flacco back, and since then you haven't had a peep.
No.
What's the latest with that?
I think the Jets' intention was that Flacco would be starting this game when they got him. And the fact that Mike White played great, it kind of put it off. And I really do believe this. And I know there's some issues getting Johnson off the practice squad, how many times you can do it. But I think the only reason Flacco is dressing on Sunday instead of Josh Johnson is they know that Flacco will go ballistic if he's not in uniform Sunday, because he thought he'd be starting by now.
You can't do that. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I don't think my thought, I would think that has nothing to do with it, that you're not going to dress a guy just because his feelings might get hurt. The only reason I think you dress him is if you really believe he gives you your best chance. And boy, after the way Johnson played, I might put him in uniform.
Except for one thing,
100%.
now you got to sign him to the full team roster, okay, and you got to pay him a little differently than the practice squad.
All right, well, that comes
but
into
There's
it.
a number of times.
All right,
they can do
They can't do it.
That can change it, but
No, I think they can do it.
I
They're
love
running out of time.
Joe Flacco,
He's
but
only lose 2 games. You can only do it for 2 games.
is he going to come
So he
in?
can't be active the rest of the season.
Is Joe Flacco going to come in and
Right.
play really good after not playing all week?
Wow.
All right, wait,
Why
Todd, you
not?
got to get control of this room here. You got to
Hey,
command the
all
huddle.
right, hey,
This is
hey,
getting out of
no
control.
side
We
conversations.
definitely had a
Just on
penalty
the
there.
fire.
Illegal
I gotta get
formation,
ready to
too
go.
many men in the huddle, delay. I don't know what it was.
Can we just
Can I
thank
just say one
Gary
thing to
Myers
Greg? I gotta say
for
one thing.
attending the podcast?
Yes, I have to say one thing to Greg. This Saturday, Michigan at Penn State.
Oh,
My son graduated Michigan 4 years ago. He's going with his buddies. Go blue, because we're going to kick your butt. You have any advice in Happy Valley for him?
Don't wear anything wearing Michigan.
Yeah, no.
Don't wear a
All I can
Michigan
tell you,
shirt.
They'll have a great time, is what I'm going to tell you. They're going to have a great time. Go visit the corner room on College Avenue and figure out what fraternities are having the parties.
Yeah, is the corner room, may that be a saloon of some sort?
No, the corner room is a little restaurant. So,
Oh.
and it's great. It's got great food and the history of.
How long has it been there, the corner room?
Oh, Jesus.
Before you?
Oh, probably 70, 80 years.
wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
been there a long time.
They got to
All the
stop
fats
there.
gonna Party it up ahead of time.
Oh,
Buttle's Bites, the spin-off podcast, will be debuting next week.
Go blue!
Oh, boy.
All right, so Mr. Buttle,
Sure.
the Jets played on Thursday Night Football. They had 10 days to prepare for Buffalo. Is that an advantage?
They had the bye week and got crushed. So I don't have the answer about whether that's an advantage or not. I've never felt, only because I've never had a bye week. So when I don't know, you had bye
Yeah, I
weeks
did. They started in 89.
in
They've been
89.
around
So
that long.
I was not beneficial.
You
of
almost
the bye
you almost got it.
The only thing that it started, the Thursday Night Football started back in 83 or 84. And I played on the Thursday night game and thought, wow, I have 7 to 9 days I can relax. But you don't, and it goes fast. And the only thing it may help you do is get a little healthier nicks and bruises, but I don't think it's an advantage. I really don't. You can only do so much.
You have
How much
extra
does that
time to
depend
put in
on
a
coach?
game plan, right? You have extra time to put in a game plan, extra time to break down film, maybe come up with a new wrinkle for your offense, maybe a new blitz package.
Well, it
to
depends on the
confuse
bye.
Josh
And
Allen.
again, just so you understand, is that the rules, as I know them, are that every team is allowed the 3 previous games to look at from the other team. Those are the 3 previous games. They get sent those films by the team or whatever they do. And so you're looking at the history of what they do for 3 weeks. You're not doing that this week. Every coach, that's why they work 24 hours a day. They've already done that from the first 3 weeks. They watch them, they watch film. So they already have a book on the Buffalo Bills. They don't need 10 days They get a book in the book.
So for you guys both, is the bye week then more time to work on your own stuff and make sure that you are on point?
You self-evaluate. You know, is this kid, am I doing enough for this kid at linebacker to know that he can be better or not? Maybe I put him in a bad position in this defense. Maybe that offensive lineman can't block that guy, so I'm going to have to chip him next time. These are the things that you would look at. If I'm coaching, that's what I'm doing. And when I was playing, I coached the linebackers a lot. It wasn't like it wasn't. We were doing film all the time. So all of these things you look at, and most of what we did was, you know, critical coaching of yourself and say, look at this play here. I remember talking to Stan Blake. I said, Stan, you're waiting too long. What is it you're looking at that you wait too long to get in the hole? I'm in the hole before you, and you're the middle linebacker. I go, what the hell are you looking at? He goes, geez, I'm from Sam Houston State. You're from Penn State. That would be the answer. So, and I would laugh at him. But I go, here's how you read this.
Right.
And so you do those things, and you find out, oh, that's what I'm supposed to do. So a lot of times coaches can help players with not necessarily with footwork, but
what to
keys.
look for.
Right, on the snap of the ball, this
First
is going to
step.
happen. This
Right.
is what you do, right? Because one step wrong is a dead step.
It's like the play's over and it hasn't even started. But for
Yeah.
you,
Correct.
the play's over because you won't be able to get to where you got to be.
Okay, take a punter. Take 3 steps. What happens?
You get the punt block. Bad.
That's great.
I didn't even. I didn't
wish
even want to.
everyone could have seen Sean's face.
Oh man, I don't want to think about that. But, you
And by
know,
the way, so you bobble the ball. That's one step.
yeah.
Now you got to take a quick half a step.
And a lot of times, if you got a short hop, you knew you didn't have time to take your regular steps, so you had to adjust and just get it out of there. Even if it went 35 yards, that's better than getting the punt block.
Absolutely.
You know, interesting about a blocked punt. I should look this up because for years, think about this, no matter what happened in an NFL game, they did the research. And if a punt got blocked, that team lost the game like 70 to 75% of the time.
That's a lot.
Just to show you how
The importance of
how critical a blocked punt. Because if the ball's on the 50, I'm standing back at the 35. You block the punt here, it rolls around, they're falling on it at the 30, or they're right there.
Yeah.
What if the ball's on the -30 and you block the punt? Now you're getting it at the 10.
It's
I mean, it's
essentially
almost like a 7-point.
play.
I have another rhetorical question for Sean. What's the worst 2 sounds you could hear?
Boom, boom. And you know what's amazing? What's amazing is how loud it is.
Oh, it is so
It's
loud.
so loud because I've played in games where we blocked another punt, and I'm happy for it. But then I'm thinking, oh, that's what it looks like when it happens to me.
Right.
That's what they hear and see. But it's amazing how loud it is.
I didn't think we were going to get into this, but I feel like we have to now since you're here today. Did you see in the Cowboys game against the Broncos the blocked punt that went past the line of scrimmage?
Yes.
That the had you seen anything like that ever before?
No, the thing that would always bother us punters is if they block your punt, but the punt goes past the line of scrimmage, that does not count as a blocked punt.
Right.
If it goes 3 yards past the line, you get credit for a 3-yard punt. Now, you didn't kick it 3 yards, but because it got in 1 year, that cost me.
That could hurt your average.
That cost me the NFL punting title in
Yeah.
1995.
Yeah.
We're playing in New Orleans. I finished second, like a tenth and a half behind. We punt like 42-yard, fair catch, whatever. Penalty flag. I got to kick it over. They come through and block it. It goes like this in the air, bounces, trickles, dies 6 yards past the line of scrimmage.
No.
So I get credit for a 6-yard punt.
Oh, no.
Instead of the 42, that 36
So
yards.
you would have rather had a blocked punt on your resume in that situation?
Well, cost me a lot of money in
Yeah, I'm
incentives.
sure.
You know, you didn't lead the league in punting. Still good, but ironically, if it had gone a yard past, they're the same. It's almost no difference.
Right.
But again, no one cares about that except the punter.
I care about it.
Well,
Joe.
Well,
You
listen,
care?
it cost the Cowboys the game this week
No.
because clearly they didn't know. Someone didn't know the rules because
They
they
didn't know the
touched
rule.
it when it
Right.
went past the line of scrimmage,
That
and then Denver ends up recovering.
ironically something similar, if you want to say in the kicking game, Thanksgiving 1993. The Miami Dolphins line up to kick the game-winning field goal. It gets blocked. It goes down, and for some reason, the Cowboy lineman didn't know the rule. He went down, touched it. Dolphins got it. They got the kick again. The game was over.
Yeah.
Leon Lett.
That game was over. Felt bad for the guy.
He did all right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He did okay. So the Jets have a big opportunity this weekend. They got a chance to take down the best team in the division, with apologies to the Hoodie and the Hoodettes. Could that do a lot of confidence for this young Jets team? And Mr. Buttle, for the fans out there, what's a key to look for the Jets to have a possibility of following Jacksonville and having an upset?
It's a mouthful. It's a multiple choice question.
He doesn't like multiple choice questions. As smart as he is.
So here's the issue. If you don't have confidence going into a game, you lose it. So that's number one. You don't need something to happen to gain confidence. I think an overused phrase is momentum. I don't understand it, but it's momentum is something happens in the game, and then all of a sudden, all hell breaks loose, right? So you've got to be mentally prepared going into every game. I don't care if the team lost, won, whether they were the Super Bowl champion or the worst team in the league. You can get beat no matter what, and it's been proven week in and week out. Just go take a look at the losers pool last week when everyone was on Jacksonville to lose, and they won the game against Buffalo. So that's all nonsense. It's like omens. Omens are nonsense. So when you think about it from a player's perspective, you got to go out there and you got to know exactly what that guy's doing in front of you, what that guy's doing behind you, and you got to play hard through the whole time. That's one of 22 players on the field. Now, all players have to be in sync, because if you're not, that one guy can lose the game for you. And I don't mean the one miraculous catch by a wide receiver. I mean the mental error that he doesn't cover the guy out of the backfield or down the seam, and it's an easy touchdown. Those things will kill you. Those are the confidence destroyers. And you go, well, look, I've done as best I can, and you didn't win. Okay, there's next week. Go to next week. I've done as worst as I can, and we won. I'm not kidding you. Okay, let's go to next week. I'm going to fix what I did wrong, and I'm going to keep trying to do what I did right. So in terms of confidence and all that kind of stuff, I'm not so sure about that. I mean, like to talk about a quarterback getting his confidence early in the game, trying to complete a pass. Why? I don't get that. I really don't. You got to have the confidence before you get on the field. I mean, there's always the first hit for players, or the first punt, maybe for Sean when he was out in the game, because, things are always, get hyped up. And what that is
well, isn't it the same thing, though? The first hit for you is the first completion for the quarterback.
Well, no, it's York Stotson. So when you get back into what you talk about, the psychological effects of positions when you play football, whether it's a kicker, a quarterback, a defensive lineman, York Stotson comes into effect about the emotions and how adrenaline rush hurts some players and adrenaline rush helps some players. And so that's a whole nother issue. But I do believe in the psychological aspect, which comes with the mental preparation of the game.
Prediction time, Mr. Buttle, who's going to win on Sunday?
Oh, you keep asking these questions. And,
we don't know who's going to win. I mean,
but if you guys don't know, nobody knows.
No, but no.
You guys play the game.
We don't.
People spend their time listening to this podcast for your expertise.
And that I agree with that and understand. But we all know that we may have our thoughts, but the truth is,
are more valuable than
but you just don't know. I'll tell you this.
I'm asking you for your thoughts.
I don't know how many people.
Greg, but you can go.
No, how many people ask me? How many people would say, what was it like, when you go into a game though, that you knew you weren't going to win?
What?
I'm like, I can't speak for any.
That you didn't think you were
when you start that game.
Sean is talking.
Right. Thank you, Greg. Thank you very much. Thank you, Greg. Thank you.
Thank you.
I never thought this podcast would bring the two of them closer together.
Okay. But it's amazing that fans will just think, well, you're not going to win that game. What are you talking about? We practice all week. We're pros. We might be 5-10 and they're 10-5, but we know if we do all this stuff right, we can win this game.
Plan to win the
Absolutely.
Game and
the fans look at it so differently, and I understand that, but it's just, I hate giving predictions because you don't know. And what's
You're gonna have
worse,
to do it twice here.
but what's
For the Jets
worse
and the Giants.
is if it doesn't work out because you played and you
Oh,
made
no,
it,
Joe keeps receipts.
no, because you played and you make the prediction and it doesn't work, people say, well, how could you be wrong? You said this was going to, that was going to happen. You
Well,
played, you
right
should know.
100% of the time
Then
you
you'd
would
never
gamble,
lose.
No, well,
and you wouldn't be here.
we'd all be
Because you'd be
multimillionaires.
rich, right? You would own an island someplace.
Sorry, Greg. He had asked you the
Okay,
question.
Mr.
Sorry,
Buttle,
interrupted there. Go ahead.
prediction For Sunday, I think that's what we want.
Yeah, I think the Jets will win if they play really good defense and the offensive line performs better than they have performed.
So you feel the offensive line is the key?
Oh, I think that's the key to the game.
Okay.
I think the offensive
Sean, was
line
that
is
that
always-
difficult?
I said I think he interrupts me too. I
All
mean,
right.
it's unbelievable. It's an embarrassment.
Oh, maybe.
Podcast.
He's taking us for granted. He's taking us for granted. He's taking us for granted.
Sean Landeta.
Something
Who do you
he
think's gonna win?
Something he said earlier, I think there's a lot to be said for. If Buffalo doesn't score 24, 30 points, they can win because the Bills' defense is really good. And although they lost last week, no one's talking about the fact that they only gave up 9 points.
That's exactly right.
So if the
exactly
Jets
right.
can hold them to 17,
That's a great point.
20, which he made the statement earlier. I really
I'm giving
think,
you credit.
well, I really think they have a chance to win. Now, that being said, I think Buffalo's really going to come back and be the team we've seen all year. And I just think because they're the better team, that doesn't mean you're going to win. Most of the time you will. That's why you play the game. I think Buffalo will bounce back this week with a win.
Joe?
I think that this is just a bad spot for the Jets. Although I will say the last time they got blown out, they bounced back nicely. I think that their offense has looked much better with whether it was Mike White or Josh Johnson behind center. But I think they're just catching the Bills at a bad time. I think the offense will still look good. I've got serious questions and concerns about the defense and how they've looked. So I think the Bills will win this one 35-23. I'm going Bills.
So the Bills aren't going to score 6 or 9 points here. You think they'll definitely
35 is what I think.
Wow.
35
Okay.
points against this Jets defense.
Okay.
Great. So Mike White leads the Jets to 37 points, and the Jets win the game.
So 37-35.
37-35.
Well, listen,
Jets.
if that young man plays anything like he did
Yeah,
the first game,
it's possible.
sure, it's possible.
There you go.
Absolutely.
Jets win. So moving on to the Giants.
See every week.
Every week.
He's
I
consistent.
pander shamelessly.
Be consistent.
So, yes. So, Sean, the Giants have won 2 of the last 3 games and seem to be gaining confidence as the year rolls on. It seems to be what they did last year as well, and they made a run at the worst division in the history of the NFL and could have made the playoffs. Do you see them possibly making a similar run the second half of the year this year?
It could happen. They're actually 1 game ahead of where they were last year at this time. So this year's going to be different, obviously. But last year, 1 more game and they would have won the division. You're right. It was a very strange situation. But this is a big one coming off. The fact they got to play Tampa, the world champs, in their backyard. No one expects them to win. Can they win? Sure, they can. I don't think they will. But if they can play defense, Joe and I spoke about this earlier, that if they can play defense the way they did the last 3 games, they're going to be in most of these games the rest of the year. And if you're in a game in a fourth quarter, that's all you can ask for because so many things happen. We've seen them lose a game on 1 play against Washington. We've seen the Atlanta game. We saw Kansas City. I mean, the end result is what it is, but boy, they are really close to being a pretty good team.
So, Joe, if they lose to Tampa Bay, they'll be 3-7. However, if you take a little look at the schedule, the optimist that I am, of the final 7 opponents, only the Cowboys and the Chargers have winning records. The combined winning percentage, because I am Mensa, went to Maryland, as everyone knows, it's known for their mathematics, is 400. So they've got a chance to get on a roll based on the opponents. So I don't want Giant fans to lose hope if they lose to Tampa. What have you seen from the last 3 weeks, going to the bye week?
Look, we've talked about it all season. A couple plays here and there, right? And this Giants record, all of a sudden, they could be 6-3 instead of 3-6. You look back to that Falcons game, you look at that Washington game. So there are reasons to be optimistic, and they're getting healthy at the right time because they have dealt with injuries the entire season. I mean, even Xavier McKinney, look at the week he had last week where he had the false positive COVID test, and he's in
practice,
and he's getting playing time for Jabril Peppers, right? We're getting more playing time with Jabril Peppers going down, so he steps up. Look, the thing that amazes me is that this locker room had every reason to revolt against Joe Judge, and I credit him for keeping his guys together. And they have, since preseason, since training camp with the whole Kelvin Benjamin situation, they have been behind their coach, and he hasn't lost the locker room at all. And that's a tight-knit group. I think they can and will make a run down here, down the stretch. I don't think it's going to be enough to get them in the playoffs because there's just too many other teams in the mix that they're going to have to jump over. But, I mean, look at what happened in Carolina, right? They already have a win over Carolina. That's one of the teams ahead of them. And now they have no idea who their quarterback is going to be moving forward. The reunion with Cam Newton is on tap here. So we'll see what happens. But I think that they can finish this season strong, and if they get that 6th seed, I wouldn't want to play the Giants in the first round of the playoffs. I'll tell you that much. And there's only one bye this year. So there's hope.
So, Sean, they're in the bye week. You played the game. What is the advantage for a player in the bye week? Is it a chance to rest? Is it a chance to study? Is it coaching? What's the game plan?
Well, all three of those things go into play. Every coach has a different schedule, but obviously he wants to keep some continuity at the same time of giving his guys rest. And, it comes at a great time for the Giants in the middle of the season. I mean, every year, you look at your schedule, and there were some years where they gave teams a bye in week 2. There were some years they gave a team a bye in week 15, which almost doesn't help you. But boy, right in the middle of the year, especially with a team like the Giants with all their injuries, this could be really good for them.
Mr. Buttle, Giants defense seems to be coming into their own. They haven't given up more than 17 points in the last 3 games. From what you've seen, can they continue at this pace?
In that division, in the NFC East, yes, they can. Okay. Now, I'm not so sure about all the other teams, but I'm not a Dallas Cowboy buyer. I mean, I think that they've got to do a little more. And again, just because you start the season at 30 points a game doesn't mean you're going to end the season scoring 30 points a game. Giants defense has gotten better. They have been making plays. They had turnovers, and that's a huge, huge key. As opposed to the Jets who've had 1 turnover. And by the way, it ended up winning the game for them. But the bottom line is once you start doing these things where you play complementary football to your offense and your defense, an offense that doesn't score a lot of points, all of a sudden gets some help. You want to talk about confidence? Okay, maybe that's one of those confidence things that I don't get. But hey, they just got a turnover. Let's go in there and score.
Let me just interject here real quick. 1 interception on the season for the Jets that won them the game against the Bengals. They had a couple fumble recoveries.
That's correct. Right. Hey, listen, they forced a lot of fumbles, didn't recover them.
Right.
So all I'm saying is the Giants, maybe that's a harbinger of what things are to come, where you look at it and go, hey, they're getting really tough on defense and they're making some plays. Maybe they're learning about how do we anticipate what the play is, as whoever made the interception, I forgot who did that for the interception return.
Xavier McKinney.
Yeah, he caught it. I mean, it was a little thrown behind him, behind the receiver, but still, the anticipation was bang, zoom, and he was right there. So maybe that comes along with the middle of the season, especially with the defense. You get a little more confidence in your own ability to break on that ball instead of just trying to make the tackle.
Look, I don't think we should write off this game against Tampa as a loss. That's the other thing. Let's not forget last season, when they had that good second half, they played Tampa on Monday Night Football and were a 2-point conversion away from, I think, taking that one as well. It was a really tight game. And I don't know if you look back at the history books, the Giants have had some success against this Brady guy who's coming to town. So
in big moments. Monday Night Football is.
There you go. So, and they have some problems, Tampa does, in their secondary with injuries. So I think that we saw Daniel Jones, throw the ball 20 times, 15 completions last week. I think he can get a little bit more involved. And these receivers will have the advantages in some of their matchups next week.
So, yes. So the bye week is a time for Giant fans and for fans of all NFL teams to sort of take stock, take a deep breath and see where the team's at. So obviously, if ifs and buts were candies and nuts, we'd all have a Merry Christmas. So we've discussed, Washington, Atlanta, Kansas City. They didn't win those games. But what grade would you give the Giants to this point, Mr. Landeta?
Well, for their record, I'd give them an F because when you're 3-6, that you can't say that's good in any way. But as far as the way they've played and competed, I'd give them a C, C minus. You know, again, in the end, it's what you are. But they've battled. They've been in a lot of games, and they've been average.
Joe?
I'm a tough grader, so I'll go with a D overall because I think
less tough than Sean's F, by the way.
Well, yeah, but he gave two. I guess I'm the average then. Because he gave him a C and an F.
Right,
we'll average it out to a D here. Because look, they've managed to stay afloat, but I can't give you, as you said, ifs and buts. You got to get one of those games, and the mistakes that cost them those games are just heartbreaking ones, especially from a team that is all about discipline,
self-inflicted,
and routine.
It's the worst when it's self-inflicted.
Like shanking a sandwich. Speaking of shanking sandwiches, Mr. Buttle.
Well, with his, well, wait a minute now. With that guy Buttle, with his handicap, he's not doing that very often.
No, well,
What's your index?
it depends what course you go to. Your index, my 4.2.
So he's not doing that very often.
No.
Like never.
Yeah.
So
Yes, sir. But that's beside the point. Going to the Giants. Going to the Giants is I probably look at it a little differently, and that is that the Giants probably could have won 3 other games, and they could be 6-3, and for that the bounce of the ball works. In the right position at the right time. Injuries have hurt them. So the Giants are a C game right now. It's half the season. They're a C team. They could be a B to A team the remaining 8 or 9 games that you have. And by the way, if the Giants went on a run, and let's just say they won the next 6 straight, they'd be leading that division. I'm telling you, they'd be leading the division.
Absolutely.
So their division is playing good for them. And so to me, I don't count the Giants out. They haven't played well in 2 or 3 games where it was bad. It wasn't bad in all their games. They play good and lose. You play good and lose sometimes. Everyone says, "Oh, they made that mistake at the end of the game. That was lousy, and you are what your record is." And yeah, but you know what? You keep plugging away and you keep trying to do these things. All of a sudden, it turns around. The ball bounces your way. There's no penalty at that time. The penalty's against the other team, and your quarterback makes the play. Your guy makes the handed catch. That's Barkley. I mean, take him out of the game. You've taken half their offense off the field. I don't care who his replacement is. He took half the offense off the field. I don't know. How do you replace it? You can't replace CMC,
come on, Devontae Booker's been solid, and when he's been in there,
there's a difference between solid.
No, he has been,
but not a question.
But
Barkley hasn't performed when he's been in there.
I think in the Saints game, he probably won the game for 2 big plays. I understand what you're saying.
I'm not diminishing Booker's ability. I'm not doing it. All I'm saying is that Barkley's a guy. He can win the game for you.
Yeah.
All right. So that as it may, I don't grade him as badly as these guys have. I grade him a C for the whole season. That's what I give.
What do you give him, Todd?
Me, the Giants. We have Giant fans listening. I give them a B minus.
How about the Jets?
See, here's the thing.
B was 6 minuses.
No, can I be honest with you? And this really pains me to say that. Really, really pains me to say this, but I agree with Greg Buttle. I think for the Jets, you're not looking at their record and their performance.
So the wins and losses don't matter?
Not this year, not for the Jets. You look at them building a roster, look at them building
we're going to have to go check the tape because I'm pretty sure that you said wins and losses. I think this might be.
You keep receipts here, Joe?
I'm just saying, we're going to have to check it upon further review.
Former linebacker.
When has that ever happened?
Just right here, right now.
Okay. That's the last time.
All right, so it's way, way, way too early, and all of your predictions are going to change next week after the Washington football team upsets Tampa Bay. However, what are your thoughts on the Monday night game since it is next up for the Giants, Sean?
I think they'll be competitive, especially if they can play defense like that. That's going to be the test, right? You've given up 17 points your last 3 games. Let's see you go do that against Tampa on the road. If you do that, to Greg's point, if you do that and lose, it's a loss, but no one can be angry. If you went down to Tampa playing them in their building, the defending world champs, you go up 17 points and lose, as he said, you can play good and lose. So you want to win, but if you're not going to win, you still want to play well.
So you're saying this?
You don't want it to come down to one play. It's where you don't want to, unless you win. All right, I'm just saying it's the facts.
Yeah, makes sense, Joe.
So you're saying this is a measuring stick game then?
For their defense, it has been very good the last 3 weeks. You go and do that again against these guys down there. Even if you don't win, people are going to take notice.
Look, remember when they won that first Super Bowl? They played the Patriots on the last game of the season, ending the 19-0. They got a lot of momentum off that. I know. I'm sorry, I'm boring you saying you're falling asleep,
right.
But I could see something like that in a loss.
That was the catalyst to then going to Tampa, Dallas, and Green Bay.
We could go toe-to-toe with anybody.
You're
Were you there? Were you there at the time?
No, I was not on the team at the
You're
time.
100% right, Joe.
You know why?
He's 100% right.
I don't think he's 100% right.
99%?
No,
Joe's always right.
No.
You always take Joe's side.
The Giants never thought that they weren't a Super Bowl contending team.
Correct.
At that time.
They 100%.
Well, I beat them that time.
I get that, but if you go,
absolutely.
No, but if you go out there and get demoralized, it just leaves you differently.
That's you. And I'm just trying to say from a perspective of being there.
Wait, let me ask you something. There was never a team in your career that you went up against that you were like, these guys have always just had our numbers, and never, like at any stage of your career,
never did that enter anybody's mind. You're playing a team.
I think you can make a case that he played against some of the greatest team ever. You want to talk about the '70s Steelers? I guarantee you, when they were going to play the '70s Steelers, they went all out, believing they could win, knowing that if they did everything right, they would win. Now, the reason you didn't probably is because you were playing against 10 Hall of Famers. But no, I hear what you're saying. What you're saying
I guess in the Washington Generals probably think that tonight's the night they're going to beat the Harlem Globetrotters.
Well, that's predetermined. But no, that's predetermined.
And he knew he was losing every time.
I hear what you're saying, though. But I'm telling you, the players in that locker room, even if you're 2-10, you believe you can go out and play a game and get a win, even though they're 10-2, and the whole world thinks you have no chance. And every once in a while it happens.
Yeah.
Because that crew of 53 in there, and no one else thought they could win, but all that mattered is they felt that. But I understand the fans looking at it and kind of assuming, well, the players know they're 2-10, 10-2. They know they can't beat
I don't think
absolutely not.
I don't think that I don't look at the record and say, all right, we're going into this game, we can't win. Of course, right? You're going to tell yourself you can win every game and that you're going out there. Otherwise, why the hell are we going out there if we don't think we have a chance to win? But at some point, like there's teams even maybe that you should beat, right? That you've gone in, you've been the 10-2 team and they're the 2-10 team, and they come out and they beat you, or it's a close game. And in your head, like, man, these guys always give us a tough time. You know what I mean? Like, we should go in there and we should mop the floor with them. And you have that mentality.
I don't know how many NFL players feel you're going to mop the floor with them, regardless of their record, because they're still an NFL team. The fans look at them. Fans look at you like you're a piece of crap. But you watch the film. They're 2-10, but 7 of their 10 losses are 5 points or less.
Right.
And if we don't play really good, they'll beat us.
Well, case in point, Jacksonville and Buffalo.
It's understandable that the fans feel that way, but I guarantee you the players never feel that way. And again, so many times, well, you knew you were going to beat those. You knew you were going to kill them. No, we didn't know that. We felt like we would, but until we went out and did it, we didn't know that.
I just want to give you just a perfect example, and this is why I think Bill Belichick is a great coach. He has his team understand that I don't care what the score is. Tom Brady was not coming out. I'm scoring more points. We're going to step on their throat, because that's the mentality you have to develop in your team to be a winner. You want to step on their throat. If they're down, score more points. Don't just sit there and run the ball to run a clock out, give them another opportunity to come back. No, do what you do best and go get them. Now, don't do things that are stupid, but do what you do best. And how come you think that Tom Brady played in games that were winning 42-0, and he's taking a snap, kneeling down with the last pick?
You know, one thing fans understand, and they know, but they don't think about, but players and coaches will think about, it only takes 20 seconds to score 14 points. You might be up. That other team scores a touchdown. You kick off, fumble, they get it and score on the next play. All of a sudden, you were up 28-7. Everyone thinks everything's fine. Not in a minute, not in 30 seconds. In 20 seconds, it's 28-21. That happens. And a lot of times, you know, even though it doesn't happen often, fans don't realize how much coaches and players think about it just because it could happen, and it does happen.
Well, how about the Titans, Tennessee last year playing Kansas City? I mean, in the playoffs.
Oh,
you know,
yeah. They were up by 10 at halftime in the blink of an eye.
They said, I'm going to sit on the ball, and I'm going to just run the ball and run it out. Next thing they end up losing.
And how about the week before? Houston winning 24-3
Right.
there.
That's what I'm saying.
And then
You
what they
know?
did 48-24.
Yeah,
I think
something
like
crazy.
that.
Sit around. So, you know, if you don't know that can happen more times than it doesn't happen, that's why you sit on people. That you've got to make that work.
And the reason it doesn't happen more is because so many coaches and teams are so cognizant that it can happen.
Well, I'm going to contend that it happens more now because of the rule changes and the prevalence of the passing
agree with
game,
that.
right? Like
I
we see it more in today's
You
game.
and I will not argue that point.
All
There I
right.
go.
How many times has a penalty been called with the offensive tackle lined up in the backfield? How many times have you seen a defensive player get called, defensive lineman called for holding
Yeah.
in a scrum?
Right.
The offensive line hold every single play, all 5 of them. Some referee saw that guy in the middle of the scrum, pulling one guy. Penalty.
Can't pull him off the pile.
He had a drone.
The thing that gets me, and it basically happens every time, and I know the ref doesn't want to feel like he decided the game, but you never, ever see a pass interference called on the final play of a game, Hail Mary, when 5 people are together and defensive backs, know that they can just totally, and it's not going to get called.
Well,
it should get called if it happens.
You know, the last time that happened was the Green Bay Seattle Monday night game with the replacement referees.
Yeah,
And
that was awful.
never again.
Awful.
But it's almost a free chance for the defensive back
Yeah.
to mug the guy, knowing that he's not going to throw the flag and give him the ball to win, but he should.
Yes.
If the guy does it, that should be treated like it's 2nd and 10 from the 30. It shouldn't be
In the
treated
middle of the
different,
second quarter.
but it's treated
But it
different.
is.
Right.
It's treated different.
So to answer my question, Giants win 21-20. So in closing,
For the 9th straight week, Giants are 9-0.
They're 9-0 in my fault. So, Mr. Landeta, for the Giant fans that have listened to the whole podcast, this is your first appearance. Can you share one story from your Super Bowl days?
One story. Oh, okay. Very interesting. Growing up as a kid, and I'm a very positive person, but you know, a couple things happened that I just couldn't believe it. That were kind of negative, and just so disappointed. And even to this day, a little disappointed. Felt a little cheated. So you grow up as a kid watching a team win the Super Bowl. You see everybody with the champagne pouring it over everyone's head. It looks like so much fun. So we're fortunate to get the Super Bowl and fortunate to win. Running in the locker room, I'm just thinking, oh, this is going to be great. Champagne, this, because I'd played in the USFL. And we had won 2 championships before, and we had champagne, and we poured it around like kids. We had a ball, see grown men having a great time. I go in, I see our GM, George Young. I'm like, George, where's the champagne? He goes, we don't do that here. So what are you talking about? He goes, no, there's no champagne. And for like 10, 15 seconds, I was like, so disappointed. What do you mean we don't have champagne? We just won the Super Bowl. They don't do that here. So I'm like, all right, whatever. You know, you go, had a great rest of the night, everything. So then my next thought, wow, growing up as a kid, every major parade was in the Canyon of Heroes in New York City.
Yeah.
Astronauts, the Mets,
Yeah.
this, that.
That is-
We're going to get that. They asked Ed Koch, who was the mayor of New York,
Sure.
how about the Giants parade? He said, Giants parade? They're not having a parade here. They aren't the New York Giants. They're the New Jersey Giants. His famous quote, tell them to go have their parade in Moonachie.
Whoa.
Uh-huh.
So we got cheated out of a parade. And again, it just would have been so much fun. Now, it happened again 4 years later. We win again. And because of the Gulf War, we don't get a parade again. Oh, one of the first, I hope to meet this guy. I don't know if he's still alive. One of the excuses they used was going to cost $500,000 in overtime for cops and cleaning for the parade. Guy named James Robinson. He was the CEO of American Express. He came out publicly and said, we will pick up that cost.
Oh, wow.
Wow, it's not bad.
Huh?
They still didn't give us the parade.
Ah!
So twice. Now, the third time, I actually got to enjoy it because there's a guy who used to play football in this area. His name Greg Buttle. I don't know if you ever heard of him or not.
I have.
Okay, but anyway,
Cantankerous.
Greg had a group of clients that wanted to have some players down in their offices, which overlooked the Canyon of Heroes. And he got a wonderful appearance for a number of us, which is very gracious
Wow.
of him. And it kind of allowed us, it's almost like that was our way of kind of enjoying it. Well, we didn't get our parade, but because of Greg, we're at this great event.
He's a
Everything's set up, you know, but every one of us, it's human nature. We're watching that. And it's great for them, but it's human nature. We're thinking,
A single tear rolls down your face.
why didn't we get it?
As you're looking at the
Not,
ticker
but wait,
tape
not
going
only
on.
once, twice.
No, I'm not gonna lie. My heart.
The
breaks for you a
Yankees
little
got the
bit.
Met. The Yankees got a parade. The Jets got a parade when they won. You know, the Rangers got a parade. Everybody got a parade. And then the Giants in their last two got a parade, but we didn't.
Champagne the second time?
No champagne the second time
that-
either.
These two things are mind blowing to me.
Yes.
It's a marathon.
It's like somebody telling me there's no
yeah,
Santa Claus.
I don't know, but again, you just had such a great moment and you want to damper it, but then you're like, but isn't that's part of the deal?
Yeah.
All right.
That's like part of the deal,
Gatorade
what you
doesn't
get to
get it
do.
done.
And ironically, it's funny. Every time I see baseball or this or that on TV and I see all that, it's so nice.
It's
But there's a
starting to
part of
bother
me,
me a
it's a
little bit.
part of me, it's just
My
like,
friend
wow,
Sean didn't
you know,
get
we
that.
could have had that.
We should
All right.
do that for the last show.
On the Blitz, as he comes out
Right,
on
for the
set,
last
we'll
show.
spray
Paper,
champagne in his
paper.
face.
And get in a
He'll be
bottle,
burning
in a
it.
box,
Yeah,
throw
we'll
some
do that.
paper.
That's right, because we were at Canyon and Canyon.
That's you're the one that got it. You got us down there. You got you got that was a great thing, and that was so nice that you reached out to us to do that.
OJ.
Yeah, you had like 4 or 5
Carl
of us there.
Nelson.
You had a nice group of us. That was
Wow.
really good.
That was awesome.
It was
All right, so
great.
ladies and gentlemen, if you enjoyed this banter, maybe some arguments, but who knows, please tune in Saturday night, 10:30, PIX 11 for the New York Blitz. You'll get plenty of this. Sean Landeta, Greg Buttle, thank you. Gary Myers, always good. Legendary Joe Masseri leading the way. Thank you. Thank you all for listening.
That's some story.
That is
No,
some
I
story.
ran in the locker room. I saw George. Where's the champagne?